All right, guys, welcome to the discussion. I've got another guest with me. This gentleman's special. I've known him since what, '04, '05 time frame. We met in Basra, Iraq, and then in Baghdad. I consider him a close friend, brother, and a mentor. And we're going to have some discussions today. Hopefully, it'll help you guys out, impart some knowledge. We have a lot of the same mindset. But I'll let him introduce himself without further ado. Mr. Bob Ninja Porris.
All right, call me Ninja.
Ninja.
Everyone does, yeah. Go back a few years, but yeah, 20 years, 20,
Yeah.
20 years Army. Well, first of all, I guess growing up in LA, so that's one.
Yeah,
Growing up in the
that's enough.
suburbs of LA, yeah, joined the Army to stay alive back in the day, and
Right.
so imagine that, right? So 20 years into the Army stuff. So I did 20 years in the Army. Most of that was at the Special Machine Unit, half of that. So engineer, gone infantry, gone special ops. Ended up with a long tab Green Beret, obviously, over the Special Machine Unit. Retired from there. Went, and that's when I met you, that time frame, early GWAT.
Yep.
Contracting for a couple of years with Triple Campy, DynCorp, and all the folks in Iraq at the time. And then went from there, actually headed to the high threat office for State Department from that gig, and was managing all the whips, for those of you that whip stuff, whips contracts.
The whips contract.
Good stuff, yeah.
Oh, how it's changed since we first started that back in the day.
Oh, I'm sure.
Whips one.
I hope it has. Yeah, God, I hope so. That was interesting.
Yes.
Yeah, and then I actually was getting rolled. I can't remember his name now. He was one of the RSOs in Baghdad. He's the one that actually pulled me into the office, high threat office for state down in Arlington.
Okay.
Oh man, his name will come to me. But yeah, I was going to go to State Department and then DSS and all that kind of stuff. Then got a few other not offers. I was doing some work. So when I was back home doing that contract.
Right.
I was contracting constantly for other folks, either training in the States, ended up on another contract, went back to Baghdad with another group, and so I found out there's other people doing the same thing, same areas, and actually got an opportunity to go to the agency and work in the similar kind of low profile protective operations stuff. And
Right.
yeah, then I spent the next 16 years at the CIA doing that, and back into the war zones, right? Iraq and Afghanistan, that whole time, and then other places with the agency too. But
Right.
yeah, spent a good portion of my adult life in what you would call a high threat zone or a war zone, whatever you want to call it.
Yes.
Running, carrying a gun, protecting people overseas somewhere. Yeah, and now retired from there and started a company, Ninja Bob Solutions, and a lot of the stuff we're talking about in this show, I cover those things as well as you do, based off of those experiences. Not apply those to everyday life. Yeah, it's good stuff.
And appreciate you coming on. But one of the reasons I started this is I like to get guests on like yourself. It's got the pedigree. There's a lot of misinformation out, a lot of influencers. So with a lot of the new people we've got coming into the industry wanting to train new firearms purchasers, I'm trying to impart solid knowledge to them and cut through the fluff. So that's basically what we're going to do today. Let's start. What do you EDC? What is your EDC?
So I'm in the staccatos. Their most recent one, the CS, has become a favorite of mine, but the C2
isn't it though
as well. So there's those two. So it really depends. So I got a Glock 43 and a 43X still, and it really depends time of the year, what I'm wearing and what I'm doing, and the concealability that I need to have, and then the threat. It's all based off the threat. Which would, when you talk about capacity and all that crap, I'm not. It really is every time I leave the front door. where am I going and what am I going to need, right?
Right.
And if I can do with 7 rounds of my little Glock 43, then that's what I'll take. You know, shorts and a t-shirt, pocket gun kind of thing. But man, and you know as well as I do the staccato
Yeah.
is. Once you go staccato, man, it's just hard to shoot
It's hard to
anything
go
else,
to
right?
anything. I know my CS, I had a prototype and I put over 30,000 rounds to my prototype. And I've got a P, steel frame P, and I just turned 70,000 rounds through it. And it's still,
Holy crap!
it's, yeah, the staccato is Buck and them when they went over from STI to
Yeah,
staccato, when they, and I tell Buck the same thing is with him there, they wanted a duty weapon. So they done it right. They brought in
yeah.
actual operators, actual gun guys to help test them. And to their two staccatos thing, normally, unlike any other company that I know of, we'll get a pistol 4, 5, 6 months before they even talk about it. So we're running it. We're
Mhm.
trying to make it break. And so we can
Yeah.
have all those issues fixed before they release them. But no, you got to
I
love
tell
your
you what,
staccato.
man, they figured it out. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, because they figured it out, right? A production gun that's
yeah,
gonna be, you know, competition quality stuff, but duty reliability, right? Honestly, I mean, and even for me, it was like, so what's the big deal? You know, I'm gonna spend how much money for what? What do you got, right? And
yeah,
also a fan of the old 1911 frame.
right.
So, and so is the whole competition. Well, they've never gone away from it. Everything's based off of the 1911 frame gun and just higher capacity stuff. Nobody's been able to figure that out until really just recently with staccato, right? Even STI
Right.
didn't. I mean, competition stuff when everybody's got to just tweak magazines, tweak your ammo, and
Yep.
it's good for that competition, and that's it.
How do you like
But
the
man, they figured it
CS
out.
magazines? The CS magazines. How do you like those new ones? I find them reliable more
Yeah,
so than
yeah.
the other ones. So
I
they done it
haven't
right.
had any issues with any of those. Yeah, that's and it's. I mean, it was one of those things where once you run it, I mean,
Yeah.
it's hard to do with that.
Well, I know a lot of the not issues. I guess the thing on the forums now. Do you carry a weapon mounted light, or
Depends on the gun.
do you run it naked? Okay.
Yep. So, and well, again, back to the whole with my concealability. What's my priority, right?
Right.
Mag capacity, lights, or whatever. Iridium iron sights. You know, whatever coming. If it's going to be an iron sighted gun, which the Glock 43 I have is an iron sighted gun still, it's going to have, you know, some kind of night vision capability or night optic like an iridium sight. Other than that, I mean, I'm not all in, you know, gun light, no gun light for everything, you know, because it
Right.
depends on the threat, right, and the environment.
That's what I tell students too. Is it depends on what I'm doing. If I'm rolling one, the one thing I do like about a weapon mounted light, and again, I came up through the FBI, the handheld,
Oh yeah,
all
yeah,
that. But it's like I tell, especially a civilian standpoint, if you have to draw your weapon, especially at night, if you're using a handheld, great. But how are you going to call 911? And that's the great thing
yeah,
about a weapon mounted light is you can actually use comms while you have your light on, if
yeah,
you need it. So it's little things like
yeah.
that's what I
Well,
like about it.
yep. And the thing is, for home defense or whatever it is, right? Gun light, right? When it does all the
Right.
other mechanical things for you on recoil and all that stuff, add a little bit more weight to the front, and all
Yeah.
that stuff, but it's also, and I heard the argument for no gun lights because you don't point your gun at something you don't want to shoot yet, right? And I get it, and it's true, but you don't have to
Right.
aim a light on your gun. You
Right.
just flip the
Exactly.
switch, right? You don't, and you're gonna light up the whole room. Yeah, so it's. I just had that conversation with somebody, and I was like, "Yeah, well, you absolutely got that right, but you didn't match the two together, right? Like you don't
Right.
have to aim your flashlight." Uh, so that
Now
was,
you can,
and they're like, "Well, I guess right."
well, that's like a lot of people that are like, they want these 1,000 looms weapon lights on a
Mm,
pistol.
Hell yeah.
I'm like,
Yeah.
okay, but I mean, I'm good with 500 on my Streamlights. I mean, I like Surefires, but
Yeah.
I've noticed a lot. Another thing is a lot of the equipment we were issued, they sell it for a premium price because it puts what it was issued. Um,
Yeah.
but I've also noticed with that is a lot of people don't understand is it goes to the lowest bidder too. So even
Yeah.
though it's mil
Yeah.
spec or it's this, it's the lowest bidder getting it, but you're getting premium prices. Like, you like the SR25 or what was it?
I did. Yeah.
And that was the issue. I like them, and then we were having issues with them getting too hot, where
Hmm.
you'd have to breech load them. That's when it
Oh
oh
shit.
09. It could be the gas on it as well, but we was having issues with them. But you're going to pay a pretty penny for them here
Huh.
just because they're
Yeah.
issued weapon system.
Yeah. That's from the ambient air temperature or the actual just running the gun.
Just running the gun, even on a qual, when we was having to do a
Yeah.
qualification course with it, it was throwing it off because it's getting too hot, and that's without a can too. So it wasn't a
Huh.
can
Yeah.
doing it. So we take the can off, qualify with it, but it was throwing the rounds off.
It was back in the day when they just made that thing, the SR25, and they were trying to figure out. So they tried to figure out how to get a 308 caliber, like a CQB gun. But at the time when that came out, nobody could figure it
Right,
out, like short barrel rifle stuff, right? In that
right.
caliber. And now they're a dime a dozen. Everybody's got 308s, 5.6, short barrel rifles, and all that stuff. Um, so that's how that. So it was supposed to be, an entry gun type of a thing,
Right.
and they just couldn't figure it out. So roll it over. It's a nice gun. We'll just use it as a gas gun for
As a gas gun.
sniper ops, and because and that didn't replace obviously the old M14s, match grade M14s and stuff, but it was a lot lighter. So that was the
Yes.
bonus.
Well, I always liked the M14s. They was always
Yeah,
extremely accurate,
yeah.
for
I
a
still
for
got
the
one. Well,
platform.
I got the Springfield Armory version of one. Yeah, because they're awesome guns. Yeah,
Yeah,
and
I noticed that on
I'm not
Insta
having to
that,
pack it in anywhere. I'm not running through the desert or the jungle with it.
nah, you're just gonna sit up on a rooftop with that. Don't worry about it.
Yeah, yeah.
Just like they give us when I was doing the anti-piracy, we had the Barretts, but we had
Yep.
these shorter length barrels, which were nice in concept if we had was inside, but we're not going to be inside the ship, right? But the harmonics on it would throw when you hit the 300 to say 500-yard range. The harmonics
Hmm.
would open up the groups, and then once it got back to around 600, then it tightened itself back up. So it's kind of crazy with that weapon system.
Yeah.
So you're teaching a lot of firearms. When did you retire? You retired what, 6 months ago?
Two. It's gonna be probably a year and a half ago.
Oh, time does fly. I remember when you was retiring.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
What,
This summer, I think it's gonna be 2 years.
2 years? In your mind, what do you think on the training realm?
Hmm.
What are you seeing issues with students? What's the main number one issue you're seeing with students that could be corrected as far as shooting? Is it their grip?
Mm.
Is it their dry fire? What do you think is the number
Well,
one,
it's
or what tip would you give?
yeah, because that's a great question. And be only my thing is, I give them the whole, marksmanship, all the marksmanship numbers, and whether you think it's 5 steps in marksmanship or 7 steps in marksmanship, or and then side alignment, side picture changes too, because if you got a red dot, then side alignment.
Yep.
What does that mean anymore, right? So
Target focus, front
uh,
sight focus. What are we doing?
yeah, and then I honestly, the all things are easy for people to grasp from what I've gathered so far, except for grip. And I get to the grip, and that's the thing that they can't maintain constantly. And then because I've heard other things too. It's like 60-40, and I don't know. I'm not a machine. I can't calculate. I can't set 60 in this hand and 40 in this hand, or is it 70? You know, it's like, don't worry about that shit. Get that out of your head.
Right.
And grip is going to be the constant thing that once I get them to do that, everything else falls in line.
How do you describe your perfect grip?
So to convey that, I say all of the grip is in your left hand. If it's right-handed shooter, right? All your grip is in your left hand. I don't say 90-10. I don't say 95%. None of that number stuff. Because everyday people don't, process those numbers that I'm telling them on what that equates in their actual grip. And they said it's your left hand. So right-handed people are naturally more stronger with their right hand. So when they start doing weird things with their trigger finger and throwing rounds, they're using their right hand, and that injects whatever numbers of inaccuracies on their shooting. So that's the one thing. And then I tell them, that you're going to have to do some things other than shooting to strengthen your grip on your left hand. And I have them all do left-handed shooting, right-handed only, left-handed only. I don't use words like support hand and all those other things, because it's like, well, what is that, right? What do I do with my hands? The Ricky Bobby thing. Well, I don't know what to do with my thumbs. What am I supposed to?
Strong hand.
Yep. I don't use terms like that. What's the other one too? Fighter stance. When I get to the stance thing, because it's like, okay, if you haven't been in a ring with anybody, what does that mean? So I tell them all the natural things, natural, comfortable, all those kind of terms, reference to their regular daily lives, how they walk and how they stand.
Right.
It's like, I'm not going to throw any, crazy terms and industry vernacular at them, because they don't know it, and they don't want to know it.
Well, that's one thing that I've tried to do on my classes and I found it's easier if you relate the firearms or the training portion to their everyday, something that they know. Because I've tried it before, and like stance, for instance, get in an athletic stance. And my students like, well, I've never done athlete. I'm not an athlete. I've never done sports. So now what? I'm like, okay, never thought of it that way. I thought everybody done sports. So no, you're right. Just be comfortable with it. Be comfortable with it.
Yeah,
Red dots.
and everything. So there's the thing about, though, on like demonstration, right? Demonstrate everything, and easier to do. This is what it looks like for me, right? This is what makes me comfortable based off of what I know, and also this stuff. And this is what I look like when I'm shooting, right? And so they try to mirror that, and then the bend forward at the waist thing too. It's like that's always a good one. Bend forward at the waist, from the waist to the shoulders. I bend forward. I was like, I might have to touch you at the waist and at the shoulder to, get you to feel those things.
To bend you over.
Yeah. And that's, it's pretty neat. And it's all those things. And so those are some of the issues that you see it on the influencers or the YouTubers or some instructors, right? So there's some of the issues. They're using terms and things that people they don't understand. It's like, well, I don't know what that is. And they keep saying things that they don't understand. And I've tried to get rid of, and it's been a work in progress to get rid of all those things. But
or they're saying they're using terminology to make them sound like they know exactly what they're talking about.
Oh yeah,
that's something they've heard before, and they're regurgitating information. So no, I agree, 1,000%. 1,000%.
Yeah, I don't even like to say like nomenclature. It's like, what is that?
Yeah. No, and that was the hardest thing for me when I believe you and I had this discussion before, was when I come out of the operational standpoint and started teaching civilians. I had to my entire career it was dealing with shooters, right? So then I had to learn, wait a minute, they have no idea what this means. So let's describe it this way or something to that nature. And I'm like, okay, I had to retrain myself.
Yeah. And I kind of got, so part of the time in the special mission unit, and then definitely at the agency, they're not shooters either. So it's training with those folks, or training those folks. I kind of learned it then. It's like, so I and expected them to have some sort of sense of the the industry terms for things, but they ain't
Right.
care. They heard it once when they were in initial training, and that's it. They just gone. So it's not, and they don't make it a point to, they got a full time job, and it's not shooting, and so they focus on their job. And that's exactly why they needed guys like us to go out and protect them while they're doing their job. We do our stuff with all the guns and protection stuff, and then they can do their job and not have to worry about it. And so I kind of got a picture of that then. But even now, teaching, like, no kidding, everyday citizens, no military, that didn't do anything in their lives, but they got a gun at one point, and a lot of it was during the writing, 2020 time frame,
Right.
and that went crazy. They got guns, but they're intimidated by the gun industry people, right? And then they go to
Right.
a range, and there's some knucklehead at a range who's got this 20 things on this list of rules on this range, and it's just intimidating. I get it. For them to look at something like that, I can't imagine, but I kind of understand. It's like, wow, this is a lot. It's like, well, do this or don't do that, and just the rules alone, right, on a particular range. Don't draw from a holster. So how are they going to practice EDC, right? Turn from drawing from a purse or a wallet or pocket or holster, concealed carry or something like that.
Well,
Yeah.
even on that, I mean, I wrote a training program for the state of Kentucky, for EDC. So Virginia, Tennessee, there's like 6 states. You take the class, then you get certified. But what I've noticed is a lot of these EDC classes, to get your license, they don't require you to draw from a holster, even though you're everyday carry. They don't require
Yeah.
you to draw from a holster. So I don't know if that's a safety standpoint or what, but that just blew my mind.
I can only figure it's from a safety standpoint and a liability, right?
Right.
So a county, city, state, or it doesn't want to assume that liability if somebody hurts themselves, draw from a holster, because guess what? It does happen. Even with guys who've been drawing from holsters for all their lives.
Right.
Accidents happen, and I totally get that. It's the only thing I can think of was why they don't have like that kind of opportunities on a gun range to use holsters.
What's the other
Or
thing I
for the ladies
found
to
that
draw from
maybe,
whatever their off body stuff, you know?
yes, yes,
So I'm not one of those guys either. It's like it's got to be on body only. It's like, okay, maybe not.
maybe not.
There's other
It
people
could be
who
your,
do. Yeah, there's other people who have other things, right? Yes, pushing a stroller. Where's the where are you gonna do? Even walking your kids in a park. Even for the guys who do that,
yep.
they should be doing that if they have kids. Um, where are you gonna carry your stuff, right?
Well, I noticed, I mean, we would do a lot of training, especially downrange. This was when I was with the expats, but everybody carried go bags because everybody's basically concealed carry, right?
Yeah,
But everybody carried go bags, but they never trained out of it. So, I mean,
yeah,
like, they kept all their mags in their go bag and all that, but I'm like, okay, mags empty, reload. And then it was just like, I can't do it. I'm like, okay, now we need to work on this, guys. So
yeah.
that's the other
So a
another
good
thing.
a good bag they used to carry too that they didn't practice with is the
Yes.
the old Maxpedition, right? The
Yep.
satchel or whatever you call that thing. I even
The
carried one of
sling
those.
bag. Yeah, I had
Yeah,
one.
yeah. Except when you had to go to the range, you couldn't use it. You had to get a
Yeah,
holster on and belt holster at 3 o'clock and magazines right there. And
that's
yeah,
one thing I
that's
hated with
that's old.
state is state qual. They give you the option. So guys were carrying concealed the entire time, but with the qual, you could carry from your drop holster. So
Yeah.
when you qualified, everybody went to their drop holster. I'm like, well, this is kind of defeats the purpose, don't it? What I've noticed with especially newer shooters, like you were discussing earlier, in class, I'm talking to them right from the beginning. just about their mindset. But it's like shooting, because I'll ask them, I'm like, okay, when you go to the range, where do you shoot from? And they're like, I don't, 15, 25 yards. And I'm like, well, why don't you shoot 3 yards? Well, that's too close. I'm like, well, don't you understand any type of team, or if you've got a background in firearms, we start at the 3 and work our way back. Because what's happening is they're going for 25 because they see everybody on social media doing it. They can't see what they're doing, right? So they're just wasting ammo at that point. And I'm like, to me, the sweet spot's around 15 yards. And I can start seeing my mechanics at 15 yards and back, because a lot of it's muscle memory out to 15. So I like to spend a lot of time at 15 yards personally. What's your normal personal training?
Yeah, I'll start it close, even with the students, and I'll do the same thing. So I'll do, you know, so for myself, it'll be, and I tell them to do these things too. So you got to start and stop your shooting session, whatever that is. If it's an hour
Right.
that you paid for, then okay, it's an hour. But at the beginning and the end, one, you got to leave with a positive note, right? You got to can't leave like disappointed in your performance, right? So I like to start it two ways. One of two ways. Either get my shot group together, so like a dot torture kind of a thing, right? Small dots at 3, and just try to get the dot torture completed, right? Shoot the dot torture, and one round out, you're done, right? So that's all the mechanics. That's all the basic fundamentals, right? So I either do that, or it's like an EDC draw kind of thing. It's like it's coming from where I carried it, what I walked in with. I set up the target and started at 3 or 5, right? A respectable, engagement range, and draw from wherever I have it in my appendix or 3 o'clock, wherever I have it, and then shoot. And so that's the other thing about that particular gun. That's the way I can get those rounds out of there, get the spring, back into operation. I'm not compressed spring, and I got this magazine I haven't used, so that whatever I was carrying, that magazine doesn't stay loaded the whole time. There's, replace the ammo, get the spring loose, and the magazine spring, and then draw from wherever it is. One time out, right? It's like, okay, and go, and see what I could do on a regular target, A zone kind of a target size. It'll be one or the other. And if it's one or the other that I start with, I'll end with the other one. But it's got to be, whatever it is at the end, it's got to be a nice,
you got to have
nice feeling run, right? Yeah.
Well, how much do you dry fire?
A good run. Oh shit.
How much do you dry fire?
A lot. Hell, even when I'm just sitting around the house, I'll have the gun out, working it, and aiming at things and going through the mechanics of even loading magazines. Load, drop magazine, reload, and all that stuff. Those are the critical things that I need to have in my mind ingrained, so I'm not fumbling around at the last minute. It's like the first time I pull the trigger is not when I'm on the street. I want to just have done that, right, and practiced it. And if you wait for every time you go to the range, there's no, it could be 5, 7 days, however long it takes for you to get back to the range. I'm on the range a lot, but I mean, if people can't get out like that, then they need to do replace whatever time they're not on the range with dry fire.
And it's free.
Get their gun out and do something. Yeah.
It's free. That's what I tell people is they're like, when they're having issues, especially former students, they'll call or they'll email me, how much you dry firing? Oh, well, I'm not. I'm like, okay, I've been doing it. I've been carrying a weapon 25, 30 years now, and I still try to dry fire minimum 15 minutes every day. I work it in somewhere. So if I'm doing it, then why shouldn't they? So it's like I said, it's free. It's just finding the time to do it.
Yep. And it's just like in some of the things too, just survival, right? Just the everything. I don't know if there's something you can work on to do that specific thing. And it's like, well, here's the thing. Here's these little springy clamper things, cost you $2, You know,
Right.
you can go to any sporting goods store and then just squeeze it when you're sitting there watching TV. So that's another thing too. You know, work your left hand if the right-handed, you know, work your right hand if you're left-handed. And there's always somewhere in your daily life you could do that. Sitting in traffic, have it in your car, right? Just work that
Yes.
thing. Um, Same thing with dry fire. There's always something. There's always something that you can. I know people are busy. Uh, Kids, work, family, all that stuff, I guess. But whatever it is, everybody's got. They're just too busy, and that's the other thing about the situation awareness too thing is like you keep, that's the worst for situational awareness. Get yourself in a rush. Get yourself behind, and now you're rushed, and you're not looking at anything.
Yep.
You're just going, I need to get there. And a lot of times, it's not. There's no reason to be rushed. It's
No.
like I guarantee there's somewhere in your day you can come up with 10, 15 minutes and either, you know, work out, get some exercise or dry fire or do any number of things, right? Um, Sitting around watching your kids play in the yard, right? Okay, well then do something related to this discussion spell is a is the ability, so sight, vision and stuff like that. When I talk about like, when we get to the front sight focus and those kind of things.
Right.
And then from an iron sighted gun, I explain, you know, front sight focus, target focus, right? And then front sight focus, target focus, sight alignment. Then you're going back and forth, right? And on a red dot, it's just like put the red dot. You don't have the sight alignment issues you got to worry about. You know, equal light, you know, all that stuff. It's like that's three less things they got to think about. And it's like so the vision. I say your vision works just like, and I have people raise their hands. Who here thinks they can multitask, right? And again, it's not me saying all this. It's all the smart folks, the PhDs have figured this out. And it's like you humanly cannot do that. You can
Right.
go from one to the other faster than maybe somebody else, but you can't. There's only one thing you can focus on. Same thing with the vision, right? Your vision, it's like, okay, it's pinpointed. You're thinking about it when you tell them front sight focus, and
Right.
it's weird. It's weird that when you're telling them the front sight focus, they're like, it's got to be crystal clear. Everything else will be fuzzy. That's got to be crystal clear, and it takes them a while to get to that point. But once they see it, they're like, oh shit, you know, it's like a revelation. Like there it is, right? Just boom, right in front of their face.
Normally on the front side focus, a lot of times I'll take white out and put a little small dot on their front sight and say, okay, now focus on this. And then go from there. And then I created, I was doing it with Afghanis when I was teaching them marksmanship. Of course, they didn't have dots. So what I ended up doing was taking a picture like my logo there, and then I made it blurry. So now it was easier to pick up the front sight, and that's what I have students do when right off the bat, if they got iron sights, when we're initially training to help them pick up their sights, is give them a blurry target and sight in on, and then work them into, okay, now you know where your sight is. Now let's work into the target. There's different ways to
Yeah.
do everything.
Yep. Yeah. And it's especially with Afghans, right?
Oh yeah. And they took everything literally too. So you had to be careful of your choice of words.
Yeah.
I was escorting some expats. They had was basically initially QRF, but we were the advanced and we were falling behind them because we was in the surfs. And I noticed there was a car. Actually, it was a moped. You know how mopeds are, right? Everybody's got motorcycles, mopeds over there.
Mm-hmm.
And the team leader, I was on comms with him. He goes, "What?" He was freaking out because he had never been in Kandahar City, and he's like, "That moped's getting too close." I said, "No worries." So I called back to my guys and said, get him off their ass." And I was watching, and all of a sudden I see windows come down. I seen arms going out. So they just pushed him off. So it's one of those I had to watch how I said things, or they just took me literally. And I'm like, okay. Note to self. Oh, it was comical.
Yeah. Yeah. I'll bet.
It was comical. Well, I want I want to pick your brain on this. I want to talk about the training side, but one of the things I'm pushing more to now, and I believe you and I talked offline about it, and you had the same mindset, is situational awareness.
Oh yeah.
And that's just situational awareness in general, but it's key even more so with a weapon as well. What's your thoughts on it, brother?
Oh yeah. So that's another thing. So if they don't take I have an actual course that's just situational awareness. It's a 2-day
Hmm.
course, but I incorporate that into every firearm training that I do, a rifle, pistol, whatever it is, because I try to get in their head and their concepts of, even why am I even shooting a gun? Why am I here with you today trying how to use this gun? Because I want, it's a self-defense thing. They want it for their protection. It's like, okay, so this isn't your first go-to. You know that. So I
Right.
try to
Right.
reinforce that kind of mentality. Like there's other things you should be doing before you pull that gun. And and ideally you see it before you even get near that point, and you avoid the whole confrontation to begin with.
Right. Right.
So that's what you're hopefully trying to achieve, is like avoiding seeing it first and then avoiding the confrontation. And to me, it's not necessarily you got to pull a gun on somebody. You failed a lot of things before that point, right?
Yes. That's
You
last
missed a
resort.
lot of things, right? Yeah, you missed a lot of things. But it's also what I find out also is, if you put enough forethought, and I'll reemphasize that, and reinforce that, hey, you're getting ready. You're not shooting to wound. You're not shooting to warn. You're shooting to defend your life, which means you're going to have to
Right.
take somebody else's. And that is no small thing, right? So you better be putting some forethought into what you're getting ready to do. But once you get ready to make that decision, then you're already
You
good
thought
with
that
it
crash.
mentally in your
Yep.
head. Yeah. So that's another thing I have them read. I send out a bunch of pre-read stuff on, like the psychology behind it, right? Be prepared to use a gun if that's what your decision is. And then by the time they
Yes.
get to the class and they've done their pre-reading, um, anything I say is just reinforcing that kind of stuff. And because that's how people have issues afterwards, right? Maybe you didn't need to do that. They start second guessing themselves. And those that, even in the war zones, guys are having issues after the fact when they second guess themselves,
Right.
after an event, right? But the same thing applied to them at the time, right? A little bit of forethought, uh, like the process before that, right? Situational awareness, and then yes, I made a, and they say it in in rules sometimes too. Like, you made a conscious effort to, you know,
Right.
get your sights on target, squeeze the trigger. But what does that really mean, right? And it's all based off of the situational awareness stuff. I tried to avoid it. I couldn't avoid it. And then here I am, right? And now defend your life. So pull your gun
That's the
down.
self
Now be
justification.
proficient. Yep.
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 Well, that's what I.
Because there's a lot of things,
No.
man. There's a lot of things, even
Yep.
in society, that, that's a bad thing. It's a crime if you want to murder somebody, right? So
Well, it's
is it
twofold.
murder or self-defense, right?
Well, I'd like to tell students is I can teach anybody to pull a trigger. The hardest part
Hmm.
is when not to pull a trigger. And then, like you said earlier, to reiterate that, is to pick up on the signs so you can stay away from the area, and you don't even have to pull, you don't even have to go to the gun at that point, because I've
Yeah.
seen it and I'm sure you have, especially during GWAT, was everybody thinks it's easy to take a life until it's time to take a life. Then you start
Yeah.
thinking
Yeah.
about it, because we're not wired, humans in general are not wired to take a life.
Yeah.
So it's the justification, and to make sure everything's you've crossed the T's and dotted the I's, and you're at this point now. So what are you going to do? But like I said,
Yeah.
it's, to me, a lot of it's situational awareness, what to look for, mannerisms,
Yeah.
um,
Yeah, and I
common
think we
sense.
talked earlier too. Yeah, we talked earlier about and it's not always, and I love my guns, but
Yes.
it's not always about using it, right? It's
Right.
and I talked about that podcast I was on. I was talking about, and it was for Australians who don't have weapons anymore. They don't have guns anymore. So situational awareness, right? Now you're forced to, see it coming from a distance and then take appropriate action, right?
Right.
To avoid the conflict and the confrontation. I mean,
With me,
and you have to do the things. I say that too, but it's like you have to do the things that you've been socialized to, make excuses for. It's like, I don't want to judge somebody. It's like, yes, absolutely, judge people.
yeah,
And
judge them, judge them.
typecast if you want, do all that shit you need to do to make a decision. And yes, go with your feelings, your gut feelings. You get back to your all the things, spidey senses, the hair on the back of your neck standing up. Those are normal
Yep.
responses to something that is maybe going to hurt you. And just act
That's your subconscious.
other than
Your
making an excuse for
subconscious
it. Yep.
speaking. Yep.
Yeah.
That
So
was a lot
we've
of
been told, don't typecast, don't judge, and
yeah.
it's like, and you make excuses for it, and then that's when bad things happen.
That's easy to say when you're protected or you don't have to. You're not in a position to where you have to possibly defend yourself. So it's easy for somebody to sit on their pedestal and say, "Don't stereotype, don't do this, it's wrong." But when it comes down to it, I mean, we've got to do what we got to do.
Yeah, back to
And that's
basic
a lot of
survival instincts that we all have, all
yep,
human instincts, right? That's all
yep.
it is.
It's just like the situational awareness, it's like we were talking. A lot of that with me personally came from a lot of it's operating downrange, right? And I've carried that over here because a lot of times when I was downrange, my situational awareness is what saved me because I didn't have a detachment to come to me. I didn't have a team to come to me. It was like, okay, I'm not going to go here because XYZ because it's just me. And trying to
Yeah,
take that mindset here to the streets has helped me out a lot as well.
yeah, absolutely. And that's the thing. I mean, so it's also um, pay attention to what is actually happening, right? So that's I like to refer people to like local news programs, not national news,
Right.
just local news programs, because they're still trying to make a name for themselves, and they're actually reporting on crime and the actual crime on the street in their towns, right? And don't it's like one of those things. Well, that happened on the other side of town. I live over here. It's never going to happen to me. That's where it goes sideways, right? Like
Yeah.
that they're getting the. I mean, and I was even approached too. And it's like, well, what do I look like? I should be, a victim, kind of thing. It's like, but they're it's the drug, and I'll say it's the drugs they're so desperate to get what they want, right?
Right.
They're getting emboldened just by their situation to do whatever it takes to get whatever they want, right? If you look like you have money, it looks like you have something that they want, a car, as an example, just take your
Hmm.
car, sell that, and just get my drugs, right? Or money if it's money they think you have in your pocket or something like that. But they're getting so bold, they don't care they don't care about consequences anymore.
No,
They don't
because
care if
there's
they're going to
nobody
get
doing anything.
arrested or
Right.
yep,
Or even if they're
yep, and you
arrested,
see
they're
it.
right back on the street.
And then you have all the stuff that's going on nationally right now to release people and not arrest people and not prosecute and all that stuff. And
Right.
and how does that affect us, right? Just look around and you're gonna see it. It's everywhere. And again, we were talking about it earlier too. So you don't walk around all paranoid and stuff like that.
Right.
But just being aware, be aware of it is, and it's all old. Some of it's old school stuff. It's like, be aware of your surroundings. Don't go to the neighborhoods that you know that are bad. Don't hang out there. If there's no reason for you to be there, don't be there. But guess where it's all happening, right? The things that
Yes.
we go to, the storefronts and the convenience stores and the gas stations and the ATM machines, and we all go to those things all the time, and those are all in my courses. And I'll have them go. It's like what nobody, everybody's getting used to the convenience of things, right?
Yes.
Drive-throughs, ATMs, and everything else, right? And I tell everybody about ATMs. Like go to the bank during normal hours and go inside, get out of your car, and I'll tell you where the best place to park in the parking lot is, and walk inside the bank because look,
Yes.
and I've seen it, and I've been places where it's like, okay, look over there, it's next to the ATM near there's hedges or something. What do you see over there? And there'll be a dude, a homeless dude sitting right there. It's like, don't put yourself in that position, right?
Right.
What harm is he going to do to you, right? You don't know, first of all. So assume the worst, and it's like, don't put yourself in that position and go inside the bank.
Which, like we talked about, I mean, and I've said it before, the top two responses when law enforcement interviews victims, the top two responses are they came out of nowhere. I never saw them coming, followed by how could this happen with me or happen to
Yeah,
me? So,
yeah,
but with situational awareness, I mean, there's signs. I mean, to me, it's like I tell people a lot of times you want to project yourself as a hard target. Stand up tall,
yeah,
chin up, and look around. They don't want to be seen. So if you're looking around, if you look people in the eye, if you're timid and you don't want to look an individual in the eye, look up in the general direction, but portray yourself like you're confident because that's what
yeah,
predators are preying on is the insecurity. So just something simple like that is about how you're carrying yourself.
yeah.
What's your thoughts?
Yeah, I had a student that said that and they said it before they came. So in the situational awareness course, I'm more of a non-confrontational person. I don't want to look people in the face. So and they actually said I walk and I face and I don't look at people, and it's like, so you're gonna have to start doing that. It's gonna
Right.
be a big change for you, but you're gonna have to start being a little bit more, overt with your how you present yourself to the public, looking at people, recognizing people, and it's not like it's literally it's you telling them it's like I see you, and then you can
Yep.
see some of the things, and I've done it too. When they're looking at you to assessing you whether you're a target or not, and they recognize when that moment comes when they recognize uh, that you recognize them, they
Yep.
do a real overt thing and do like, oh, like I wasn't, I wasn't looking
It's
at you, right?
like
And
I tell
it's like,
students, they
so
want to be invisible. Point them out.
yeah,
Look at them. They
yeah,
want to be. Don't want to be seen. So look at them.
yeah, yeah. And then there's the or talk. If you're in it, if you're that close and you can say something, what's the reason to do that, right? Well, you don't have to have a reason, but if you want one, just say hello or something. But how
Mhm.
you doing today? Something. And I've done that quite a few times to folks, and they don't know how to respond to that. So if they're looking around and looking at people, and I'll only do it to the people who look a little shady. It's like, hey, what's up, bud? And then you do that. What? It's like, it's like, yeah, whatever,
Exactly.
dude. Get out of here. Um, and yeah, and fortunately, given a class like that in today's American cities, anywhere small or big, I'll go during a class and I'll guaranteed to see something to act fit like, there it is. And I didn't even have to set it up, right? It's like, there it
Yeah.
is, right?
There it is. What
Yeah,
to look for.
it's pretty neat. Why am I parking in that certain, why am I parking in a certain place in a parking lot, right? It's like you're gonna have to you're gonna get a couple more steps in today, right?
Right.
Just good for you, man. You're gonna get more exercise. But it's gonna allow you to open up your vision, right, and see everything before you walk into it.
Which is like if I have my druthers, and it's what I tell students is I reverse park for a reason, because if there's a situation that I need to get out of there in my vehicle, it's a lot easier to go to first than try to find reverse. And
Yeah,
because you can always slam it down into transmission to go forward than it is to try to find the second notch down. And
yeah,
because a lot of people can't drive sticks now, so you know how that goes.
yeah.
So it's a new
So
millennium.
just to go from reverse into drive, and then yeah. Why would you do that to yourself?
Yeah,
Yeah, I did the
that's
same thing about the whole parking thing.
so it's kind of it's little things that a lot of people take for granted. Um, like we were talking earlier, one of the things that I do is I'll take a picture when I go into a mall that I've never been. I'll take a picture of the sign that says you're here, so I have a blueprint of where I'm at. So if something happens, if there's a fire alarm, active shooter, anything, I'm not following sheep
Yeah,
because we all know sheep and chaos. So I want to know where I'm going. So if I've got family, if I've got friends, whatever, then I can lead them out and not to rely on someone else. But it's
Yeah.
just something simple. Use technology for you. Take a picture. So
Yeah, I think you mentioned it too about places like that and restaurants and anything in uh, especially the United States. There's a back door to everything that you enter.
that's why I like the
Um,
kitchen. I sit next to the kitchen because I got hardened surfaces in there, and they always have an
yeah,
exit if I'm in a
yeah,
restaurant. So, but
yeah.
that's me.
It's funny that when I point things like that out, it's like there's a now when you go overseas, it could be different. Yes, they do have back doors, but sometimes they don't have the like the safety regulations that we have to abide
Right.
by. So they could be chained shut or something, right? Or blocked with stuff.
And I've
Um,
seen them.
so, but yeah, and here they'll get fines and all that stuff if they're blocked or they're locked or whatever. But I show them where they are. It's like, so this is typically where the employees go. That's a designated smoke break for them, smoke area for them. So they use the back door all the time because they can't do it
Right.
out in the public, right? They'll enter, even shopping malls. They have back doors in all the storefronts, and there's usually a hallway in the back so they can deliver goods and do business
Mhm.
stuff, right? And yeah, there's so many. I can't think of a place. Uh, some of the places won't allow you to go see it, but you can see it from the outside. Go around,
Right.
take a minute, go around the backside, and guess what? There's going to be all these back doors to all these establishments that you'll see lined up. But in a shopping mall or like I don't know, a strip mall kind of thing. Like there's a back
Hmm.
door to every one of these places.
Again, it's like I said, it's just knowing your environment, being aware. There's options. Um,
Yeah.
I had a discussion with this individual. I believe I put a short or something out on YouTube about safety at gas stations
Hmm.
and told them how I get fuel so I can actually see because you can get on YouTube and do a search and you can see all these people getting carjacked,
Yeah.
getting robbed, getting all this just because they're either in their phone looking at
Yeah.
everything or
That's a
they're
big
just
one.
just not paying attention. Yeah, the
Yeah.
worst thing is technology. But I released that. And I done a podcast probably about a week after that, and one of the individuals actually chimed in that they watched it and it saved their life because they started doing that, and then they just started seeing everything.
Oh yeah.
But
Nice.
a lot of things that we think we take for granted, I believe, a lot of people's never heard, but
Yeah.
we've lived it. So again, it's that's why I'm trying to do this is trying to push experience and knowledge that we've got, and hopefully, if it can save one person, to me, it's worth it.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh yeah. There's so the it's a generational thing too, where we've unfortunately been told to accept things that we know aren't, you know, in our best interest.
Right.
And I don't know when it stopped, but there used to be a thing they used to teach kids, right? Stranger danger kind of thing, right? If it and so that goes into the whole conveying what the importance of situational awareness is, even to your kids that young, getting
Right.
started then, because you have all the human trafficking stuff going on now. Kids are disappearing off the street, literally. I
It's
mean,
rampant.
and nobody thinks it can happen to them, right? But all right, well, switch your focus because they don't care anymore.
Yep.
They just want whatever it is you have for their purposes, whatever it is. Um, yeah. Now, kids, they're not. I haven't heard that term in a long time. Being told to kids, stranger danger, right?
I haven't either.
Yeah, there's a uh, well, then there's also call me old school, whatever, like the lack of respect for adults, right? And whatever, teachers, police, whatever it is, it's like I don't know what
Yep.
happened about that, but nobody respects their authority figures anymore, or adults in general. And I've told some kids that were acting nefarious, in places, and they're like, "Yeah, you're not my dad." It's like, I don't give a shit.
Yeah. Well, to me,
Down
it
your
started
ass
when they
right
took paddling out of schools. I can remember when I was in school, if you went to the principal's office for whatever, you got paddled, and you didn't want
now.
that. So yeah, I'm telling my age now.
Yeah. 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 Some things
So
just work though, right?
yeah, it worked. It worked. And a lot of it goes to the area that you live in the States. I can go back home and visit. And now, of course, they've got more crime now than they did, but predominantly it's not as bad anywhere else just because it's smaller, it's rural communities that's still close knit.
Yeah.
But again, it's just the mindset of the country now. It's just different than you go back
Yeah.
2000. I started seeing it go down, honestly, around 2008, 2009. I could see a shift in the demeanor across the U.S.
Yeah.
But, well, brother, I believe I've taken up enough of your time. I do appreciate you taking time out of your day to speak with me. Thank
Yeah,
you.
absolutely. Thanks for having me on.
Um,
Anytime.
what let's, I don't think we talked, we've mentioned it, but tell them a little bit about your company. Any training you got coming up in the areas? We
So,
need to work
Ninja
on getting
Bob's.
we need to work on getting something here in Texas.
Yeah, absolutely.
Do a class down
I
here.
have I have a class in, and I never pronounce the name of that city. It's south of Dallas, near Waco.
You're at
Um,
ETTS, Wakachovia,
yeah.
or something like that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Only in Texas.
That's in
Only in
August, I
Texas.
believe. Yeah. So nice, hot Texas. I'll be in that town. But yeah, Ninja Bob Solutions. I'm everywhere. I'll be going up to Indiana here in a couple weeks, going to a SWAT conference. I'm all over the Southeast, really, primarily right now. Out to Texas in August. But yeah, schedules on the website. Pistol, rifle, carbine stuff. I'll be working with. The only thing that's not posted, it's on the website, are scheduled events with law enforcement and all that kind of stuff. But all the open enrollment, which everything is situational awareness, pistol, rifle, carbine stuff, emergency preparedness, all those things, and everything. Guess what? Has a nexus to situational awareness.
It does.
Even
It
the
all comes back.
emergency preparedness. Yeah, emergency preparedness. That's another thing too that people don't think about. That applies, to almost everybody in the states. There's always
Yep.
something. Tornadoes, earthquakes on the West Coast.
Well, coming
Hurricanes and
up,
all that stuff.
we've got that eclipse coming up that everybody's freaking out about.
Yeah,
I guess it's Monday now. So, I mean, you've got local communities telling everyone to have full tanks of fuel, food, and all that. So, we'll see what happens with that.
yeah. Avoid the rush, right, and be ready.
Yeah. Get it
Get
now.
the stuff when it's not pending. Yeah, when it's not imminent. Don't wait.
Yeah. But again, brother, I appreciate it. Appreciate you taking the time. Guys, like Ninja said, if you're in the area, sign up for a class. You couldn't find a better instructor. Besides instructor, the man's got experience, knowledge, and he can teach. And it's kind of hard to find those attributes in an instructor. So again, guys, appreciate it. The biggest thing is stay safe,